Little FANRUN TV exclusive. Make sure you smash that subscribe button, like, comment. John Reed, Sam Beard. I know it's football off season. Football season's coming, but I got to say, seeing the Tennessee basketball roster and seeing the Tennessee basketball clips from practice and Nate Amend and Jacoby Gillespie and reading Zakai Ziegler updates got me pretty fired up. And then today you get the 2026, which, damn, we're getting old, especially me. You see the opponents for 2026 announced. We don't know in what order just yet, but we do know who they are and where they will be. Sam, how are you? And are you ready to talk some Tennessee basketball?
I'm doing great. Always ready to talk basketball. Love talking ball. Yeah, I mean, it's exciting. I know that football is right around the corner. That's what everyone's kind of gearing up for. But after kind of the notes and the videos and some of the highlights of that first practice open to the media came out yesterday, got me pretty excited, man. I mean, there's not, it's the highest rated recruit that Tennessee's ever had coming into the building. Jacoby Gillespie seems as if he's that guy that you kind of thought he would be coming out of Maryland. And even the freshman, Troy Henderson, maybe kind of the next Zakai Ziegler, hopefully, in terms of finding kind of that diamond out of the rough late in the recruitment cycle and letting him kind of grow and blossom throughout his couple years here at Tennessee. I'm excited for that. So, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely down to come and break down this schedule. Another great year of hoops in the SEC coming up, too.
Yeah, before we run through the schedule, did you find that to be telling that Troy Henderson was running with the ones? Did you read into that at all? Did you look at that as maybe he's just the easiest got to be replaced if Zakai Ziegler or Jordan Gainey is given another year of eligibility? Because when I saw him running with the other four guys that I assume are going to be the starters, and Gillespie and Ament and Phillips and Okpara, I couldn't help but notice and say, because that's a name that we had really not been banking on being really even in the rotation. I looked at him as a project, maybe somebody that got in, in some mop-up duty, or maybe worked his way up by the time, SEC play was running, but maybe from day one he's going to be in the rotation.
I think that might have been my biggest takeaway from yesterday. I kind of was coming into the season and this summer workout plan, kind of knowing I probably know what you're going to hear out of Nate Ament, 5-star freshman. He's got all the raw tools. Jacoby Gillespie, you've seen it at the highest level so far. But yeah, hearing that news about Troy Henderson, I thought was massive. And I don't know, it seems like it's kind of following the Zakai archetype. You don't want to, come to conclusions too soon, but when Zakai came in, it felt like that whole coaching staff was thinking, hey, this is a guy that's going to redshirt, get him under under our wing for a year, and we'll see what he can do after that. And then a couple practices go by and he quickly shows them, hey, this is a guy that can kind of play immediately. I do think Troy Henderson's going to have a role on this team. Took it with a bit of a grain of salt. Bishop Boswell wasn't there yesterday. I was out with an illness. And
I'd be pretty disappointed if Bishop Boswell was slotted to be the starting two guard
I think that's fair.
Now, though. But, I mean, that's fair. And also there's a part of
the French Basket wasn't there either. I think that guy is well in the mix for being a starting two for you.
And there was also a part of me that thought maybe Amari Abram would be the starting two if it was an actual game, but they wanted to see how he would go against Jacoby Gillespie defensively, right? Because he's supposed to be more of your defensive, I don't want to say a defensive stopper or anything, but like defense is kind of his calling card.
Yeah,
is what they've told us. So I wonder if it's a little bit of competition there, like best on best type of thing. And let's see if he can lock up Gillespie and bother him. But either way, we'll wait. We'll see. Zakai Ziegler officially appealing his denial for another year of eligibility, but the appeal process will be rolling. We'll keep an eye on that. But let's talk some schedule, as Tennessee now knows their opponents and knows where they will be playing. It is a little bit more exciting sounding than maybe it actually is, because really it's just pretty much the same as last year, just flipped.
Right.
So like we already kind of knew our opponents. I think that's why we're getting this early, but still, at least we now have it officially. Of course, Tennessee, their three continuous rivals where they play home and aways: Alabama, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt. They will play both of those inside the Thompson Bowling Arena at Food City Center, and they will play them on the road And then, yeah, last year's opponents that were on the road are now at home. The opponents that were now at home, now on the road, which means that it's not exactly the way it completely shook out, though, because, of course, last year you played Florida 2 times, once away, once at home.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of lose in this scenario. You only get them on the road. But on the flip side, you do not have to make a trip to Auburn. You get them in Knoxville this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think from an outside perspective and just not really knowing the layout of the schedule yet, you just know where you're headed to. I feel like Tennessee got a pretty solid draw in terms of some home games. Like I think you look at kind of who you're going to be going against outside of those common home and road opponents. Like getting Auburn at home, I think is huge. A&M, like Buckyball, I feel like that's a little bit of a mystery there. So getting that one at home and not letting their home crowd kind of get into it, I think that's a key. You get, the Texas game at home. That'll be nice. Ole Miss, I think a team that's going to be pretty frisky as well. You're getting them at home. So I think you set up pretty nicely at home. I do think there's a little bit of, there's parts of me that thinks there's some trip ups here on the road against maybe some bottom of the conference teams that you get them on a Tuesday night at 9 p.m. and that kind of becomes their Super Bowl. And I get a little nervous about some of those games.
See, interesting, because I had a different read. I didn't really mind the road games at all. Outside of especially, the three yearly guys that you can already pencil in, right? Like going down to Alabama is tough, although Tennessee has, fared pretty well there in terms of just the matchups with Nate Oates. But like Kentucky, of course, going to Rupp Arena, not fun. Vanderbilt, not fun. But I didn't really look at Arkansas as too tough. Maybe that's me, really just thinking that they'll be a similar team to where they were last year in terms of teams not being, that not being a really tough environment for people to go in and win. They struggled in a lot of their conference play. Georgia, okay, yeah, tricky, but nothing I didn't think out of the ordinary. I'd rather go probably to Mississippi State than go to Mississippi like we had to last year.
Really? Okay.
I don't know. I just thought going to Ole Miss last year was trickier than going to Mississippi State will be this year. Missouri, it depends on who they are, of course, and when you play these teams on the schedule. But, hey, Missouri, we've seen their path so far. It's been be good one year, be bad the next year. So they're due for a bad year. And then South Carolina, just kind of is what it is. I look at that as one of our easier places to play in the conference right now.
I definitely understand that logic. To me, I was more thinking of like I don't have necessarily the numbers to back this one up. I feel like playing those huge opponents on the road, whether it's, I'm going to just throw Kentucky out there for the sake of it. But like, I feel like you go out there and Rick Barnes does a really good job of making his teams like prepare well for those big road environments. Whereas I wonder is if, kind of those sleeper games and those teams that aren't as strong in the conference, like you mentioned, the Georgias, the South Carolinas, the Missouris, like are those just potential to kind of slip up? We always talk about the one weird game in football season that you never really seem like you should win on paper, and then you don't go in there and you kind of lay an egg. That would just be my only concern with this. I do follow your logic on, hey, it's bottom of the conference teams on the road. They don't really present too much of a home court advantage, so you should be able to go in there and take care of business. I think it's just more of like slip up potential that I'm looking at.
Sure. And, look, I think the SEC has done enough to prove itself top to bottom to where there aren't too many layup games. But in terms of the bottom feeder in the conference, that's South Carolina. At least it was last year.
Yeah.
That's one of your road games. To me, that feels kind of like a win. Has Georgia gotten better? Sure, yeah. But like, who in the conference would you rather play on the road than them? I mean, maybe I don't know, maybe Oklahoma, I guess. Like, who do you project to be the bottom feeders in the SEC next year? Because at the top, I think it's pretty clear. Like, Florida's probably going to be at least the highest ranked in the preseason, correct? When you look at the, just kind of judging off of the way too early top 25s. I know Florida, the highest ranked SEC team. So you do kind of get screwed there having to go to the O-Dome. Kentucky going to get love right behind them. So that's 2 road games against 2 of the highest ranked teams. Where else do we got? Auburn, but see, you get them at home, so that's okay. Alabama, is probably next in terms of the way too early top 25. So, like, on one hand, it does look, Sam, like you're playing 3 of the top 4 teams in the conference on the road. That is tough. That is tough. So from just that angle, that's a loss.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a bit of a loss, and I think it's one that you got to hope that Tennessee comes in there and says, hey, I mean, maybe a bit of a down year for us in terms of continuity and roster flipping and stuff like that, but I do think it's been, it's those opponents that I think this Tennessee team takes the most serious too, and it's ones that there's no option but to go and prepare for them as if it's that elite level game, and I think you're going to be able to get there. But yeah, I mean, bottom feeders, I think you're right. Like you are playing most of the bottom feeders in the conference on the road, and
maybe there's just not any bottom feeders in the SEC anymore. Like maybe that's really the takeaway here is like all these teams, like any road SEC game, maybe except like LSU and South Carolina. Like like I guess you're swapping those 2 teams out. Maybe just any of those matchups is just going to be tough. This on 3 way too early top 25 I'm looking at has Arkansas at number 11.
They went out
at number 11 in the country. So like, they have them ranked ahead of Tennessee. So that's 4 of the top 5 teams in the conference on the road. So yeah, maybe that's a lot tougher of an ask than I'm giving it credit for.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's easy to kind of look at those, those South Carolinas and Missouris and be like, oh yeah, it's cake here. But yeah, it's not. We've learned very quickly in the last couple of years of SEC basketball with just how good the conference has gotten as a whole. To your point, there's no games off and there's no days off, and there's no longer those late Tuesday night games that you can just kind of sleep your way through. You got to approach every game as if it's kind of your last year in this conference nowadays.
All right. So I like to do this before the season, and I know that this might change depending on trap games and, sandwiched in between two home games, a little midweek road trip. I know sometimes that's a trip up spot, but let's just looking at the quality of opponents. We'll start on the road. Alabama, Kentucky, Vandy, Florida, Arkansas, Georgia, Mississippi State, Missouri, South Carolina. Nine road games. Your projected Tennessee wins and losses, what would you feel comfortable with? What would you be content with projecting?
I'll take a win over.
You don't need to pick which ones. Just give me a total, like 5-4, 6-3. Would you be happy with 4 and 5?
I need to put the names out there to be able to get this through my brain.
Okay,
honestly,
go ahead.
John. I just gotta let me cook for a little bit. I'm gonna take Georgia as a win. I'm gonna take South Carolina. I'm gonna take Missouri. I'll take Mississippi State. I will take Arkansas.
Okay.
And I will take Vanderbilt. You're not going to lose to them. Last year, that's going to be a sour taste in our mouths going back down to Memorial Gym.
So
I think we're going to try and wash that out of there. I think 6 road wins.
Well, if you win 6 road wins, I mean, I think that you are in position to win the SEC overall, because I imagine if you're taking 6 road wins, when you look at the home slate, Alabama, Kentucky, Vandy, Auburn, LSU, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, and I already said Vanderbilt, but take them out. Alabama, Kentucky, Auburn, LSU, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Vanderbilt. What is your projected home record?
You want me to take out the comment, like the home and away ones?
No, include them too, because I think your answer is different. Like you might project a loss to Kentucky and Rupp, but then think you'll beat them in Knoxville, or at least with Alabama.
I think I'm going to go win-wise here. I think we'll drop 2 games at home.
Okay.
I'm going to drop 2 games at home here.
So 6-3 and 7-2. So you're looking at a 13-5 projection. Like that's where you're looking at for Tennessee. Okay. See, to me, my equation would be 8-1 at home.
Okay.
8-1 at home kind of seems where you need to be. Really, when I look at any of those games, Sam, and I look at Rick Barnes' performance at home inside the Thompson-Blung Arena at Food City Center,
pretty damn good.
And when I look at the roster Tennessee has, which I also think is being really undervalued right now. Like, I think we're dealing with a top 10 team right now that could maybe be a top 2 or top 3 national championship contender if they get either Gainey or Zakai back. If they get both back, you can make the case they should maybe be number one.
I think that's fair. What would you, if you don't get any of those guys back, where does this team line up for you? I still think it's top 10.
I still think it's top 10 just because I think you got I don't know of any teams off the top of my head. Now, maybe somebody's out there. Maybe you could point to Florida or somebody like that. But, like, just who's going to have a better big man rotation than Tennessee?
I don't think there's too many teams in the country that are going to have that.
Right. I mean, like, well, the SEC's earned its respect that if you're the best in the SEC, chances are kind of like football and baseball. If you're the best in the SEC, you're probably going to be best in the country, or at least second or third. So, like, I think it's going to be a different team. It's going to be a bruising physical team, but, like, you're going to have big man depth. That's something you did not have at all last year. You had 2.5 guys. You're going to have 4.5 guys now because they talk about Dwayne Brown as if he is going to be a contributor, and at least as a fifth big and third guy off the bench. That's pretty solid. So, like, I think Tennessee's going to be a physical team, and, like, out on the wing, you added a top 5 prospect in the country. Like, that should be a top 5 pick in the NBA draft. I'm not saying he's going to be Cooper Flagg or Kevin Durant,
sure,
but what if he is? Or what if he's like 95% of what they are, and he should be that where he's ranked? So, like, to me, that's an upgrade over what Tennessee had. And then, the point guard position, with all due respect to Zakai, if he's listening, I think Jacoby Gillespie is going to be different, but probably, is it blasphemous to say just as good as Zakai? Like, different. Maybe not guarding you 94 feet and, like, setting the tone defensively, but, like, when you look at what he brings offensively that Zakai didn't, like, let's just say, for the sake of VFL legend status, let's say that Gillespie gives you 95% of what Zakai did.
I mean, I think Jacoby Gillespie is going to blow Zakai Ziegler out of the water in an efficiency shooting term. Shooting and efficiency.
I thought you were saying he was just going to blow him out of the water.
No. I'm not talking overall player. I know Zakai Ziegler is an absolute difference maker defensively and what he can do just overall on a game, being that game manager. I think Zakai Ziegler was frankly just not a good shooter really at all. And so I think
he got hot towards the back half of conference play. Like, he shot 37, 38% the back
easily
half.
A career high for him. I mean, he was before that, like a 32, 33% shooter.
He stunk until the second Kentucky game. Like, he got hot towards the back half, and then, that kind of went away against Houston or whatever. But, like,
and so to me, I just feel like when you add in a 40+% 3-point shooter, you add in all of that talent that you've got in the front court, and you've got kind of a mismatch at the 3 with a guy like Ament. I think the ceiling for this Tennessee team is sky high.
Oh yeah, I think this is another Elite 8 team where you get to the Elite 8 and you roll the dice on making it to the Final Four and hope you have a good matchup and hope that you do have, maybe not Cooper Flagg, maybe not Kevin Durant, but maybe what about Carmelo Anthony?
Okay.
Well, what if Nate Ament's just a bucket getter like Carmelo Anthony and carries a team all the way to the bleeping national championship? What about that, Sam?
Yeah.
Have you considered he's just Carmelo?
I mean,
so yeah, but, like, just real quick, we want to keep these somewhat short, but 8-1 is my projection at home.
All right.
And really, like, correct me if I'm wrong, Tennessee's going to be favored in every home game, at least right now, injuries, whatever happens. But, like, keep in mind, they were without 2 damn stars last year and were favored at home over the national champion Florida Gators. Cost me a lot of money in that game. But, like, you're not going to pick any team just in a 1 game off of beating them. Not saying Tennessee's going to go undefeated at home. I'm giving them room for one slip up. But, like, typically we don't lose big games at home. Typically. And we're always favored at home. So I think 8-1's a safe projection. I think you'll upset one of Alabama, Kentucky, Florida, and Arkansas. Like, I feel very confident, or Arkansas wouldn't even be an upset, but you'll pull an upset over one of those 3, Alabama, Kentucky, Florida. You'll beat one of them. You'll go 1-2. And then, yeah, like Vandy, Arkansas, Georgia, Mississippi State, Missouri, South Carolina. Even if you win 3 of those 6 games and you're 4-5, that doesn't feel good if you're 4-5. Because then you're 12-6 overall in the conference. But, like, that's a pretty safe floor. And that's just a projection. I would say Tennessee should have a winning record on the road. We'll call it 5-4.
Okay.
So, like you said, 6-3, 7-2. I go 8-1 at home versus 5-4 on the road. But I think we end up at the same place.
Sure.
13-5.
Yeah. And that's been consistent with what Tennessee's been giving you in conference play over the last few years.
One last thing before we go. I asked this question to Cody on Talk Sports, airing every day from 7 to 10 a.m. As you sit right here, right now, are you more excited for football season or basketball season?
Honestly, I still am more excited for football season. I think I'm getting back into, I've phased out of like the, oh God, it's Joey Aguilar at quarterback. And I'm now phased into I'm excited to see what Josh Heupel can kind of do with maybe a clean slate, maybe a little bit of underdog mentality. But I think the fact that I have to think about that gives you, some pretty good, gives you a good feeling just knowing that, Tennessee basketball season's so far away and I've got this much excitement and with frankly a hole at the number 2 spot still at shooting guard.
All right, we'll talk again next week. We'll find something to do for the YouTube people. Smash that subscribe button. Smash that like button. Leave some comments. Help us out. We're trying to grow the YouTube. Sam, appreciate it. You can hear Sam every day, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. under review. All right, I'm into the podcast now. We'll see if